Hey everyone, and welcome to our webinar with the alarm clock. And so I'm so lovingly, is what he's lovingly called, Don Stanley. Thanks so much for joining us. And my name is Jenna. I'm kind of your webinar host, familiar face for you guys if you guys have been watching some of our webinars. So without further ado, Don, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got here.
Thank you. I'm, let's see, originally from East Tennessee, live in Nashville now since 2000, 63 years old. And I will say that I thought getting older was going to take longer, but it didn't. So 4 kids, as far as I know, 6 grandkids. So life's good. I'm blessed more than I deserve. So
good. I love it. Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of been fun for me just chatting with you a little bit before this, because we all know your voice and we see you, in the broadcasts and whatnot. And, I love Dave Fleming when he's like, and the alarm clock sounds, but this side of you, we don't get to see. So this should be fun. And I would love to know, how'd you get involved in refereeing? Did it find you? Did you find it? How did that process work for you?
I will say I officiated other sports ever since I was a teenager, so I've loved officiating in general. I think internally I have a high sense of fairness when it comes to sports. And so about in 2013, 14, 15, I got introduced to pickleball. And, I thought I was going to be a 5-0 player. Bought me a little lobster machine and was drilling and all this stuff. And then quickly realized that I wasn't going to be a 5-0 player. And so then just sort of, they also have officials in pickleball. And I started reading the rule book, reading the handbook, started officiating rec play, and then fell in love with officiating. And that's a real passion, that's for sure. So that's how it thought I was going to be a 5-0 and then turned into reffing. So
that's cool. Yeah. What was the journey to become the top referee for the PPA Tour?
As far as that journey, there's a lot involved. If you want to become a referee, the usapickleball.org/referee website has everything you need to know to get started if someone's looking into that. They have a great system, a very extensive system of trainers and coaches. So for me, I read the rule book, read the handbook, went to rec play and started reffing rec play matches. Went up the ranks that way. As far as with PPA, I was a certified ref at this point. And in the 2019 Nationals, I met Connor Pardo, and he said they were talking about forming a league. And they were looking at a couple others, but he wanted to maybe talk to me about being the head ref. And I said, I'd be honored to, be considered. I said, I just really have one request, that if we do it, I want to be able to do the 2-referee system, and he said, okay. So shortly after that, got contacted again and came on with PPA, and I've been with them ever since. I'm very thankful. They've given me a lot of freedom, a lot of flexibility. So I, again, can consider myself blessed more than I deserve. So.
I love it. Do you remember your first maybe like pro tournament reffing experience, or even maybe your first tournament that you reffed, but were you nervous for that? How did that play out for you?
Yes, it was probably the biggest one I remember first was probably the Grand Canyon Games when they were back in Casa Grande, I believe, Arizona. That was a biggie tournament. I remember seeing, the Sarah Ansburys, the Wes Gabrielsons, and I was trying to be cool, calm, and collected, and act professional, but was just enamored with seeing them. So that's the biggest one I remember reffing at first, and then did nationals that same year. And I want to tell you how the no came about.
I'd love to know.
It was one year at nationals, and I'll be brief and quick. And they said, hey, ESPN is going to broadcast like the semifinals and the gold matches, and they're all looking at the refs, for who they want to be on TV. Well, back then, me being from the South, and if you can't tell, having a Southern draw, when there was a foot fault, this is so embarrassing, I'm okay to tell it. I used to go, kitchen, and that's how I used to call a fault. And that sounded, and they said, Don, we want to tell you, we consider you to be on ESPN, but when you say kitchen with your Southern accent, you sound like a Southern hick. We are worried that that won't look good. And I said, you know what? I agree with you. I agree. While I would love to be on TV, I guess, I agree with you. So I went to Rec Play and told myself, I got to quit saying kitchen. I got to quit saying kitchen. And then I started saying, no, foot fault. And then it just turned into no. And since that time, I don't do it on purpose. I've tried to tell myself, stop doing it. Just be cool, Don, be calm. And then when it happens, I do it. I even gone to counseling to try and stop saying that. And I can't. I think it's this old dog can't learn that new trick. So
listen, from a viewer perspective, I love it because it's like we know right away when there's a
well,
fault.
I will say this. I think a lot of times, just because I'm so adamant, I mean, I've missed them. I've been overturned on calls. It happens. And if you want to be a ref, that's part of it. You're on the front lines. You're going to take the bullets. And sometimes you get overturned and you miss calls. But I think the players think, well, he must be so sure about it. I guess it was. So,
right. That's awesome. Okay, so we're here to talk about mostly the referee app because we wanted to bring that up for a lot of our tournament directors don't even know that exists. So you said earlier you loved it more than chocolate, which I love chocolate. So let me just quick run through here a second.
Okay.
So I grabbed some screenshots just to show you guys a little bit about the referee app. So in your app store, if you just search Pickleball referee app, that you will find it in the app store. You can see the PR Pickleball Ref logo there. Once you download it, obviously you can follow the steps to open it, log in, sign up. You can log in just with your regular pickleball.com account. And Don, feel free to stop me anytime because you are more knowledgeable about this than I am. But next, once we sign in, hang on. Here we go. Next, we have a choice. You'll see a referee code and a tournament code if you're doing like a specific event. But yeah, you can continue from there and enter those codes, which you would get from your tournament director. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. But also up on those three menu bars, this is the great thing. You can go to training mode and still choose the USA PPA. And the big difference there is, I'll tell you real quick, when it comes to technical fouls, USAP is a point deduct. PPA is still a point addition. So that's why you have to choose one of the two there so the app will know how to do it. But gotcha. I highly recommend go to training mode. You can go to Rec Play, ask them, can I ref, plug in their names, give them a band, server band. You can practice this app, sit along at home on TV and watch along. You can practice with it all day long.
Yes. So like Don was saying, there's the three lines on the upper left. Click on that, and then we can kind of see our different scenarios. So I think in this one, I chose a double with the specific side out. You could choose rally, side out scoring, and then it just walks you through basically the next step. So when I chose doubles with a regular side out system, now it has all the different score formats that it allows you to practice. So you tap one to continue there. Then it takes you to the next thing. Okay, here's a match that we can simulate for that. So I clicked on that match, and then you have your match format here, right? So these are the people in our system that are set up to simulate in the training. You can start your pre-match setup. It'll ask you if it's a video challenge court. And Don, why is this from the tournament referee perspective, the video challenge court make a difference as far as pro level stuff?
Real quick answer there. If it's not a video challenge court, each team has 2 timeouts, right? And if it is a video challenge, each team has 1 timeout and 1 free challenge. And that's really
you can mark that in the app. Then how many?
Yes. And that's the big difference. Timeouts and free challenges. Yep. And here's a great thing. Yeah, yes. You can edit names, which is wonderful. Yeah.
Yes. So it asks you to tap them as people come to your court. If you're the ref and you're there first, it'll have you tap them, and then you can start the match, like setting it up. So it has those options of who's on the court, and then next tab over is starting servers, who won the coin toss, and then it'll ask you to summarize it. So it'll just go through those tabs that you see towards the top of that screen grab there, and then tap to start. You could just hit tap on the start button to start the actual warm up, and then the clock will start ticking down. So here's again where it's, just verifying, okay, these people, this is how they're going to be set up. And once that 10-minute warm up is finished, they'll get a warning, time, the game's about to start. And then lastly, this is what your final screen will look like. So Don, why don't you go ahead and explain kind of the workings of this? I know we can't really show because it's a screen grab, but again, you guys can go in the Ref app and just mess around with it. You can't break it in that training portion. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, this is great. I think everybody can see right here, if you were a referee standing at the court, notice the names and players are lined up like you see them. I'll say this, if we took a new referee today and taught them on the app, especially since there they are, both servers are back at the baseline, receivers back, receivers partners up at the NVZ. It looks like how you should see the players on court, which is such a visual help. If we taught them how to use the app and then next year said, we're inserting a new system, we're going to show you how to do this on paper, I think refs would quit because this is so much more simple. But real quickly, on the left side, the A team, we'll call them, you see the little 0? That shows you where they came in, what score they had after a side out. For example, let's say B team was lost to serve, it's a side out. A team, there was a 5 in that little box where it says 0. You would know that they came in on an odd number, so the no band would have been first server in that time. So if it's on second serve, it has to be the banded player, right? Here's your 2 timeouts up in the timeout boxes up in the corners. You just tap on them. You hit start. It does a countdown. Screens turns red when it's 15 seconds. It's just so easy and so easy to use. When you get ready to call the score, you hit that little pip button, which means play in progress. Then we have a live rally, and one of 2 things is going to happen. It'll either say shaded out like SO for side out, since it's the first serve of the game. Or if, let's say it's in the middle of a game, it would say second. So it's either going to be, you hit pip. If the serving team wins a point, you just touch the NVZ where the green is. Boom, adds a point, moves players around, moves the receiving team. It does it automatic for you. And I want to add a selling point here. If you've ref before, when we're back on paper and the 1-2 clip, we've all been in this situation where you'll say, okay, 5-4-2. And a rally happens, and you're going, oh, crap, was it 2 or was it the first server? Did I turn my clip around? Oh, my goodness. And you're thinking about that more than worried about the game. Mm-hmm. Here, when you do it, when you hit second serve, it's the second server, it's the right players. It does the thinking for you. I know some refs, I've said that, and they go, well, I don't want to be just a robot out there. But it frees up your mind so you can concentrate on what's going on in front of you. So I just – I love the app there.
That's awesome. So would you say that's kind of the big problem that it was designed to solve, is just being able to free your guys' minds up, focus more on the calls and the game rather than what's the score? Do I have it right? All those things.
I would say that, and also the aspect of live scoring, which I think is what helps the operations people, rather than having to wait, after a match is over, they tap paddles, they talk, well, where are you from? Where do you play? And then they finally sign a score sheet, and they finally get it back to the court 4 minutes later, get it back to the ref desk. And the operations people are pulling their hair out. Why is it taking so long? But to see live scoring, we know pretty much right when the match ends, and the operations people can go ahead and assign the next match, save you so much time, make it better for players, more efficient. That's a big draw, I think, from the non-reffing side of it, is the live scoring. You can see where they are.
Yeah, and players can actually, like for the pro matches, you can actually follow live what the score is on the Pickleball Tournament's website. So you can go to a PPA match, you can go to the matches that are playing now, and this app right here updates those scores that are showing up on the website. What's your favorite feature of this app?
Well, it would have to be the video, how it handles video challenges, because back in the day when we didn't have the app, we would write on the score sheet 2 or 3 times. We would write C, S, and O. Okay, like if there's a challenge, what was the call? It was an out call by Ben. Uh, I say Ben in a generic way. I'm not trying to promote anybody. You have an S for if it stands, we're at 5-4-2, and there's a challenge. Overturned, if it's overturned, well, let's see if it's overturned. Then it'd be second server, so it'd be, or side out, so it'd be 4-5-1. To be able to do all that thinking for the referee is just amazing, especially when an overturn goes back to a side out, and now you have to add a point. That was the most of the time you'd see both refs on the camera looking at their score sheet going, wait, what? So to be able to handle video challenges was really, I think, I would maybe sell my firstborn child for that. It was such a great thing. So.
That's amazing. That's awesome. So if you guys have any questions about the referee app, just email us support@pickleball.com. I encourage you to go into it, go to the training portion. So intuitive, so helpful, training built into it. And then, you can figure out how to run your next pickleball tournament with the app. So speaking of refs and the referee app, obviously to use the referee app, we need referees. So how can tournament directors find referees?
Tournament directors find referees. You can reach out. I'd say social media, or reach out to USA Pickleball. Right now that's a big way. USA Pickleball has CRCs, certified referee coordinator, RTCs, referee training coordinators, all across the U.S. But I would say social media, also Pickleball Desk that Shonda Davidson created, is a great way to use and find referees. They're out there. Just ask an organization to help you, somebody who's ran tournaments before. But there's a ton of referees out there who want to work. So,
And even as a tournament director, when I have the little button checked on that referees can sign up, I have gotten a few that have submitted their names to be a referee just from that little button. Refs we'll see that sometimes, like as they're signing up to play. So you mentioned earlier a little bit about the process to become a ref. Is that all through USAP? Is there more specific process in that, and if someone wants to get involved with that?
I like what Matthew Cross said one time. If you want to become a referee, the first step you need to do is pull out a $100 bill and then set it on fire. Because look, this really is, and that's why I love referees. For the most part, now pay is getting better, and we're becoming more professional while working harder. But I'll just be honest with you, it probably needs to be a passion of yours, a labor of love. Because especially if you travel with flight and hotel and car expenses, you're probably going to go in the hole. I'm just being honest with you right now. But that's what we all did. When I was reffing and working a full-time job, I took all 3 weeks of my vacation and went and ref tournaments. And that, luckily for me, led into recognition and being offered a job. So the pay is increasing. And it's good, but I probably got off track there with the answer. Just know that it's going to be a labor of love at first. But then also you can go to, as of right now, the only official training course out there is offered by USAP Pickleball, and they have an online PowerPoint file. You can take a training class from a trainer, rec play. You can come to tournaments and shadow referees. Maybe you can get some ref experience. Then you can go for your assessment, your level 1 assessment. It's all detailed and lined out. It's a very lengthy process. It's hard, which I'm glad. We do want to, have good quality referees. But if that's a passion of yours, there are plenty of people to help you. You can get signed a mentor in your local area, and they can help you and take you. And I found that for the most part, if you want to go out to rec play, have your clipboard, have your score sheet, have your server bands, have your 1-2 clip. Most of the time, people are glad to go ahead and let you ref their match because they know they are helping, because it helps train referees, and we all need referees.
I've had that too in rec play, where someone was just like, hey, can I practice? I'm reffing this weekend at whatever. Yeah, sure. Whatever works.
Yeah,
So,
that's giving
yeah,
back. It helps. I know the game's a little slower at times, and you're going, "Come on, ref! Call the score. Let's go." But it helps and it's necessary.
yeah, yeah. Do you remember one of the hardest calls that you have had to make, and how did you handle that?
Oh yes, I remember one. It broke my heart back in the days when I guess everything was supposed to be real secret and we couldn't tell anything. Back in the days where if they said, "Am I the correct server?" Let's say they were the
Yeah.
correct server, but the wrong position. We
Yes.
could only say, "Yes, you are the correct server." And so it was a dear sweet lady. It kind of reminded me of my grandmother, and they had fought back, and it was uh, uh, close, like 10-10 or something. She said, "Ref, am I the correct server?" And I'm going, "Yes, you're the correct server." I was trying to help her, but I couldn't tell her she was in the wrong position. And she said, "Okay, call the score." She served fault. You're in the wrong position. You said I was the correct server. You were, but you're in the wrong position. So I'm
Mhm.
glad that we got rid of that silly rule. And now we can put them in place, have them serve. So that was a hard one. The second thing is anytime I would call a fault and I was wrong, like let's say you call a foot fault on a ball that bounced in the NVZ, you go, hang on, ref error. That's my fault. We're going to replay it. And of course, anytime you get overturned on a call, that's not fun. But again, it's part of it. It's part of it. It's a battle scar. So
Right,
that was
right.
hard, though. I was trying to go, yes, you're the correct server, and she didn't catch it. So anyway,
I do remember those. That was not too long ago where you had to ask both
I
questions.
know. And then we
And
finally got it to one year's like, can they ask, "Am I good?" And that
yes,
encompassed everything. That was a good one. That came from PPA. That's
yes,
where it came from. And then
yeah,
then they said, "Well, you have to ask it every time." And I said, "Okay." I was talking with Mark Pfeiffer, a good friend, when he was head officiating. "Mark, so we're allowed to now ask, am I good?" He said, "Yes." "Can I say this, ref? I'm going to ask you, am I good globally for the whole match?" And he said, "No, you gotta ask it every time." So I'm glad those days are gone. I mean, look, let's don't play this cat and mouse game. I remember when we changed the rule at PPA that we put them in position. My good ref friend, I won't mention a name, but she said, "Don, you're taking away all of our goodies. You're taking away all of our gotcha faults." And really, there shouldn't really be any gotcha faults. I mean, if you step on the NVZ, I'm going to call it. But let's get them in place. Let's get the serve going so they can just win the rally based on their skill. How's that?
yes, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember that was a thing when that changed where with the stacking and that wasn't a rule anymore. And you play at the point or whatever. But people
I
got
think it's
upset
made the
about
game a
that.
lot smoother. I really do. I think it's made the game a lot smoother. Uh,
Yeah,
I don't like it that refs wanted to catch somebody. I mean, it's good
yeah,
that they're sharp and on their toes,
yeah,
right? But I just think it's made the game. I mean, I remember Jim Price refing in Pictona at I think it was a APP tournament. It was the wrong receiver on the gold medal match at match point, and he called the score. I think it was 10-8, whatever. Boom, wrong receiver, fault, point, game match. He said that whole auditorium just whoa, inhaled with such anticlimactic. So I think it's a
yeah,
good rule
yeah.
change. I really do. So
So I would actually put that. I was going to ask you next about some of the top rules that players misunderstand the most often, and I would say for me as a tournament director, I hear that one all the time still. Where if your opponents are stacking, and then they think they can call them out of position. It's like I still I mean the last tournament I ran, people were still talking about that one. So I would love for you to give the official declaration of this is the rule, and when people are out of position with stacking.
yeah, I mean, here's a good thing. Let's say they don't have a ref, right? I get called to a court, and they say, "Well, we just played a rally, but afterwards we realized that they were serving from the wrong position," and they admit it, and they did. And I go, "Okay, okay, I hear you. I believe you. All of you in agreement. That's good. But you all played the rally in full, right?" And they go, "Well, yeah." And everybody played it. Here's a key phrase: everybody played it in good faith. Yes. Well, yeah. So if you all played it in good faith and not one of the four of you caught it, and even if there's a ref, I'll say, really, it's all five of yours job to do that. Nobody caught it. You played the rally in good faith. The rally stands. And that's a
Mhm.
good key phrase. You get them to admit everybody played that in good faith. Could have gone either way, but you all played it in good faith. That's where the logic is the rally stands because you played it to
Mhm.
win it. You can't back up now. So, and then you just correct it going forward. Now you
Right.
serve from this position. So,
Mhm. I always just for me, when I'm playing with opponents, I just flip them before they even start. Like, if I'm the server and I'm serving to them and they're backwards, I'm just like,
yeah,
"You guys gotta
exactly.
switch," because then I'm not thinking about it, right? Then I'm not like,
Yeah.
"They're out of position," right?
Yeah,
So
good point. I think it is really just. I think made the game much smoother. It's good sportsmanship too.
yeah.
Little funny quick story here. This back when we didn't put them in position, it was at Casa Grande. It was late at night. It was the like 3-0 mixed doubles, 125 plus age bracket, I think. And so the guy was getting ready to serve. Well, the lady was up at the line, and she was supposed to be back receiving. And so I can't tell her anything. And nobody's asking. I can't just sit here all night. So I call the score. As soon as I call the score, she realizes she was supposed to be receiving. So she turns around, sweet old lady, starts running back. The server serves, hits her right in the, can I say butt in this? Can I say that? Hits her
Like,
right in the butt, right? And she turns around and says, "You're getting it when we get home, mister." That was her husband who curved and hit his own wife in the rear end. And then he tried to blame me. He said, "Well, baby, he was about to call a 10-second fault on me." And I said, "I was only up to number 3." So hits his own wife. And those days are over. So we just say, back up. So anyway, much more
that's
smoother game.
awesome.
Yeah.
Any other rules stick out to you that are, like, most common in your mind that are most misunderstood?
I would say the difference, two areas here that kind of fall in the same. The difference between a hinder and a distraction, they get those
Mm,
confused all the time. I mean, hinders, legal hinders are replays, right? That's something from, let's say, outside the court, a ball coming in, a spectator coming onto your court, or a player from another court coming onto your court. Those are hinders and those are replays. In the interest of safety, we replay those.
yeah,
Distractions are faults. And if they're called by the referee, that's a fault. And that's hinders are, let's say, something from outside the court coming in. Distractions are caused from players inside the court, so to speak, and those are faults. Those two get intertwined a lot. And also, along with that, probably the most thing I answer is, well, why can't I call a fault on my opponent? He was definitely standing in the zone when he hit it. And without a referee, I go, well, you can call, meaning mention it. You can say, hey, you were in the zone there. If they accept it, then fine, call a fault on them. But you can't enforce it.
mm,
So there's two definitions to the word call. I can call / mention it, but I can't call / enforce it if I don't have a referee. So those
right.
are probably the two biggest when there's not a referee that cause the most confusion. So
What's the most common situation that you're called into, like, as the head ref, usually any common themes of, like, what you're called to, uh, for different matches?
there's the long going problem, which is a basic problem in the sport, and there's no way around it. We have players calling their own line calls, and that's an inherent problem because players are biased to win for their team,
Mhm,
right? So I get called in, they're making horrible line calls, and what do we do? And I go, you want me to overrule their line call that I didn't even see? That can happen. We can put a ref on your match, if we have a ref available. That's a big one. The second thing I get called out to mostly is probably they were out of position. You know, they were out of position. They admitted it and they admitted it, but we played a rally. Here we go. Everybody played it in good faith, right? Right. Okay. So the
yes,
rally has to stand. So those
yeah,
are the two most common.
yeah. Any rules that are being talked about now about changing, or anything that you can give us the Don Stanley insight into of what to look into or what to look out for maybe?
Well, I wouldn't say it's Don Stanley inside. I used to be on the USAP Rules Committee for a while, and I was recording secretary for a long time. I enjoyed that a lot. I do know that next year USAP is going to resubmit, and I think and hope it will pass. They're going to resubmit that you can coach in between rallies, because that is extremely difficult for refs to apply. Like if you hear somebody saying, "Great shot, bend your knees," and they're saying that from a spectator, I mean,
Yeah.
what are we supposed to do? Penalize the player because they're getting coaching? Maybe that spectator doesn't even know the player. They're just trying to be helpful. So I do think I heard that one's going to be resubmitted, and I hope it passes the USAP board this year, because starting 2025, we've allowed coaching in between rallies. I mean, heck, they're doing it anyway. And honestly, who cares? Who cares if they're getting coaching in between a rally when the ball's dead? I don't care as a ref, and as players can do it. So I think that one's coming up. I also heard that it's going to be submitted that possibly the crossing of the plane would not be a fault. We instituted that starting in 2025. Didn't agree with it at first, but I like it, and I think it's made the game. We're not penalizing athleticism, so I think
When somebody goes for an Ernie, you're saying.
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
right now you can cross the plane, and I got to tell you, that was hard the first few months in 2025 not to call it. You're so used to seeing somebody cross and they didn't hit the plane, go, but have to stop yourself. But I think those are the two that I would say to keep your eye out for. So.
And then before we get into the Q&As, I feel like there maybe is some gray areas potentially that the rule book may not actually cover. How do you handle those?
Okay, let's talk about one in specific. All judgment calls, especially distractions, they're very subjective. It's like you can't, make loud noises. Well, what's loud, right? To one ref, this volume may be loud, or this volume may be loud. So anything that's subjective, especially if it has to do with a fault, like a distraction, all the technical warnings, technical fouls are very subjective. We try to give consistency. But the subjective ones can be a gray area for sure. Also, there's times when the rule book just doesn't cover it. And I have at times said, wow, okay, y'all, this is not specifically covered specifically in a rule book. That's why there is the catch-all, the rule in 13C something, that when something is not covered by the rule book, the ref can use their best judgment and common sense to apply ruling. And so when I do that, you don't want to make it seem like you're pulling for one team, but I would say, there's not a specific rule covering this one, but here's a precedent over here in this rule, and we're going to apply that precedent in this situation, and I'm going to make my ruling on that. Now, of course, they can always, call in the head ref in that situation, but I think the rules committee and a lot of people have done a lot of good work on trying to rule out the gray areas, but they still leave it as a catch-all. If there's something it's just not come up with, the ref will use his best judgment and common sense to try and make a solution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I watching the sport evolve, and as these different scenarios come up, there's got to be a lot of times where in the past, we've got to add that, we've got to address this, and it feels like that list is kind of slowly getting smaller as this sport evolves and gets more popular, and we play more matches, and we see what viewers are understanding and what they're not, and so yeah, that's a good thing that there's also a catch-all in there.
Yeah, I love the comment there that it's that list is getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
Like now they've added in the rule book, a line call or out calls, words like out, no, long, wide. But now they've added, and hand signals. But they didn't define hand signals,
Right.
So now I think there's a discussion of what's an allowed hand signal as far as, this I think everybody accepts is out. Yeah. That is in. What if I do this? Is that in or is that, so I think we'll be tweaking that for a bit to come. So anyway.
Yeah, good. All right. Well, if you guys have any questions for Don, why don't you drop them in the Q&A right now, and we will get over to those in a sec. All right. So Q&A. In tournament play, let's see. So Terry is asking, in tournament play, after serve to opponent, can receiving team stop play and say that they did not hear the score called and request a reserve?
Okay, this question gets asked a lot on Facebook. Of course,
Yeah.
without a referee, we're assuming without a referee because the referee
We're
calls.
assuming without a referee. I think so, yes.
Okay, so the serving team stops the ball and says, "Hey, I didn't hear the score." Well, okay. Some might say, "Well, that's a fault. You can't stop play." Just there's no rule that says you have to hear the score to continue play, right? That says the score shall be called, but there's no rule that says, and if you don't hear the score, you can legally stop play. So technically, the receiving team has caused a fault by stopping play, but it's not something that the serving team can enforce, right? You can't enforce that fault. So what I've said in this, neither team can enforce the fault. So we're at a stalemate. I say just throw the ball back and say, call it again, please, where we can hear it. Because
Hmm.
neither team can enforce the fault. So we're at a stalemate, and all we're doing is wasting time until the serving team finally says it loud enough. That's what I've recommended for years because there's no recourse for either team. So just catch the ball, throw it back, and say, I didn't hear it. Now, if it gets bad and you're doing it 2 or 3 times, then that's a situation you want to try and get a ref to finish the match. But
Yeah.
technically, the first time it happens, the serving team can't enforce it. Now, if they called me out and they called me out to the court, then I would have to say, okay, you admit to stopping play, receiver. There is no rule that says you have to hear it to legally want to continue play. You know,
Hmm.
I can't say that they didn't call it. Have they called it every other time? They go, yeah, just not this time. Well, it looks like they've been doing it okay. So, I would say, okay, that's a fault on you. But if you don't have a ref come out and you don't call a head ref, just throw the ball back and say, call it louder, please, because you're at a stalemate. And then they'll probably call it louder. So,
Right. I actually had it once from a tournament director standpoint where we had a match where it was women's doubles, and let's say Team A was ahead 15-14. They gave the ball back, and Team B served, and what they said was 15-15. Now Team A didn't hear that, so the serving team had won that point. So now in their minds they're thinking it's 16-15. So by the time they won the next point, they were about to say, no, 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 it was, you guys didn't have this score, but they thought they had to play it out. But by the time that second point hit, they had to play that one out, so they couldn't call it. So then it was 17-15. Team B is thinking that the game is over, and Team A is like, well, A, we didn't hear the first score called wrong, and B, we were going to correct you after this match, or this point, I mean, but now the match is over. So we got called in, and then I think this is where a gray area. Tell me if I was right or wrong, but we had them replay. Like we thought they were both wrong. A, for not saying score clearly, and B, for not correcting the score when it was misheard. But on a game point situation, that gets to be a little bit gray for me.
yeah, I would offer in those situations, I try to, because we have this lots of times. This team says A, this team says B. I wasn't
Mhm.
there. I can't. I'll make a joke and I'll go, now you look like you're pretty honest. I'm not going to pick sides. But what I try to do is, okay, can we recreate the last serve and return? Who
Yeah.
was serving from what position? So if I can get them to agree on that, then we can say, well, this would dictate a score right there. If the
Yeah.
banded player, we all agree, was serving from the left court, that has to be an odd score.
Right.
And if no band was receiving in the left court, and nobody disagrees with that, that would indicate you all have an even score, right? So it looks like 15-14 is the best outcome there. Um, I would probably disagree with the one thing is I probably wouldn't replay it because if we allow a replay, that opens the door for any team that loses they can just raise a stink because the ref's going to come out and let's replay it, and I got one more chance to win. I've
Yeah.
many times. I
Yeah.
try every
Maybe
way I
replay maybe replay is the wrong word. We had them start at 16 to 15 because that's what we determined that the
can.
one
That's the
team
last
got
thing you
2
can agree
points,
on.
right? And
Okay.
so yeah, so that was we determined that prior to that the score was 14-15. So
Yeah.
if they said it wrong or somebody didn't catch it or whatever, either way, this other team got 2 points. So it should be 16-15. And so they ended up, we had them play their last point. So maybe
Yeah.
replay was not the right
Yeah.
word or whatever. So,
Yeah. That's good. Sometimes I'm just left with, look, I can find no common ground whatsoever. Once we had it in the juniors match at Bristol, they tapped paddles at the end of the game. The juniors did. And then a parent, 6-letter word, the parent talked them into that they weren't finished. So the first time they tapped paddles, let's say team A was the winning team, somebody convinced them to keep playing, so they played a 3 or 4 more points, and then team B won the second time. So why did you tap paddles? That means the game. Why did you start playing again? I had them go down and do a 1 point rally scoring playoff because if you can't find any common ground, lots of times I say, I find no common ground here. I have nothing else to do but say that the result of that rally, which everybody admits that they hit the ball out, the result of
mm-hmm.
that rally has to stand because I've got nothing we can all agree on here. So, and
Yeah.
that's, but hey, more money, more referees, have a ref on every match. There you go.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here. Um, Hold on, let me go back to this. Amy is asking, what is the etiquette for calling game point when calling the score? I'm guessing what she's asking is like a ref calls match point or game point or whatever. So do we as players without a ref on our court, do we have to call that?
No, that's not in the rule book or handbook anywhere. 2 years ago when we started doing that at PPA, um, if a person signs my paycheck and they want something, then I will do it as long as it doesn't, impact my integrity. So we started doing that. The person thought, they believe it was helpful to the people watching. So I get it. So even the referee app, right at 10 would come in a big red screen, game point.
Mm-hmm.
So we would say it because that was just something that the PPA wanted us to start doing. They have now removed that from the referee app, and I now forget to say it. Wink, wink. Hey, don't let anybody there see this. Yeah. So, no, that was just something that was in the ref app that they wanted us to do, but it's not a requirement whatsoever at all. The score at 10-9-2, we all know that that's game point. So,
Right, right.
yeah.
John is saying he is running a tournament next month using the USA Pickleball Rally scoring rules. He says his players are confused, but a picture or video is worth 1,000 words. Where can I point them to a video that shows this provisional rally scoring in action? John, I would say watch some of those old MLP matches where where they have probably from 2024, right? Because 2024 was still rally scoring, right? If I
Well,
remember.
it was, and I think, but even the Dream Breakers, although it's singles, Dream Breakers are rally scoring.
Right. Yeah.
But I
So
think even the doubles last year was rally scoring, I believe. So,
yeah.
or
So
just
John,
practice in the app. Go in the app and practice, and it'll let you
yeah.
see what it does with play. I'm really that's a good thing to do. So
Yes. Yeah. One question about the player entered scores, but that is not. Okay. Have the little leery of switching over to player entered scores. Have you seen this firsthand at any large tournaments? How the players have handled the change? I want to prepare my staff and refs as to how to best help with the transition when we take the plunge. So, Rachel, I would say if you have refs that might look a little different, you can use the ref app to enter the score, and that in itself will enter the score. Otherwise, if you want your players to enter their score, you may have just a few roaming refs potentially. but you wouldn't be using paper in that case. So there's a couple training tutorials out there for how to use the player entered scores. If you Google Pickleball Play Solutions and then go to the trainings playlist. I just created a video a couple weeks ago. It's 2 minutes long. You can send it to your players on how to enter their own scores. So yeah, that can help you. All right, Don, this one's for you. Cheryl is asking, any chance of the drop serve being approved for PPA tournaments? What are your thoughts?
Well, the first answer is no. At the pro level, I would bet Jenna's house in Vegas that is not going to happen. There's been adamant no's, and the feeling is that and I kind of agree with this, it looks elementary. Okay. I agree, but you talk about taking care of the whole arc and below the waist and all these controversies. Jenny, you may have to put a timer on me because this is a
you could talk all day on this subject alone.
This is frustrating. I think when the people originally thought about serving in pickleball, I think that they thought, here's how you should serve in pickleball, almost like you were bowling, right? Low to high, got to contact it down here. The serve is not a weapon at all. We're just going to kind of lob it across the net just to get play started. I think and so they kind of wrote rules with that in mind. Here's how people should serve. I used to have this debate all the time. The arc has to be low to high, right? Well, parallel is 0 degrees. That's not low to high. But 0.1 degrees of an angle is technically an upward arc. But who the heck can call that? And do I want to call a fault on, well, that was 0.1 degrees, not an arc? So there's so much controversy, so much subjectivity around these rules. And we've tried to make all kinds of rules with, you got to release it here. You can't be above the hip, and then they drop their hip when they serve. It's so flipping subjective. It's impossible. There's never going to be a fix for all the subjectivity in the service rules unless you went to the drop serve.
Sure.
That's my comment on that. But is that going to happen at PPA? Never. It's not.
Right.
So now I got to take my blood pressure medicine because that's just for me. So, yeah, it's so.
Oh, that's awesome. Doug is asking, can a player serve stepping typo? Sorry. Okay, can a player serve stepping forward from behind the baseline, but not yet stepping into the court before hitting the ball?
Yes.
I think that's just like you hit and then you can cross the plane of the baseline.
Yeah, the rules are there as long as 1 foot's on the ground when you contact the ball, and if that 1 foot that's on the ground is inside, not beyond the extension of the sideline or the center line, that other foot can be in the air. It can be over the court. It can be over the adjacent court. It can be anywhere it wants in the air. It doesn't matter as long as 1 foot is on the ground when you hit the ball. If both feet are on the ground when you hit the ball, they both have to be behind the baseline, in between the extensions of the sideline and center's line. So, yeah, that 1 foot, it can be in your partner's hip pocket. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Now, don't let your partner's hip pocket be on the court, but yeah.
Yeah, good point. I think I personally always step into the court because I'm trying to serve with such force that I just end up carrying myself into the court. But that's after contact, though. So. All right. I see one more question here. Brian is asking, in a non-officiated play, opponents call a NVZ fault on my partner. It was not clear that there was a fault. Opponents claim replay. Is this correct, as we had won the point?
Yes, this is I call it the rule with no teeth, because as you can tell, I disagree with this rule because yes, that's true. If I call an NVZ fault on my opponent, if they agree, fine, it's a fault. We all agree. If they don't, well, in every other situation, the rally stands. But in this one situation, it's a replay. And I remember when this rule came out, there was a certified referee who said on social media, "This is going to be the end of pickleball
Oh
because
no.
everybody's going to be claiming falls just to get a replay." Well, it's not the end of pickleball. It, I disagree with the precedent. Let's say if the ball's damaged, right? Let's say after rally, you get the ball and say, "Hey, it's cracked. I think that impacted this rally." Well, if all agree that it impacted the rally, then it's a replay. That's if all agree. But in this rule, it takes the reverse precedent. If you don't agree, it's a replay. So it's the only rule that comes into play where basically the team that claims there was a fault has all the power, basically. And I disagree with that concept. But yes, technically, per the rule book, if I claim an MVZ fault on the opponent, if they agree, it's a fault. If they disagree, we replay it. And thankfully, it hasn't ended pickleball as we know it. But technically, that is the rule.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that is all of our questions here. Oh, I just saw one more come through. John's asking if a ball hits a player's hand while on the paddle and then hits. Okay, hang on. If a ball hits a player's hand while on the paddle and then hits it with the paddle all in one motion, is that a fault?
Okay, so I'll repeat that back. I think I know what they're asking. If this is my paddle hand and I'm holding onto the paddle, my glasses, yeah. If the ball hits me below the wrist, this part is considered still part of the paddle, and that's not a fault. Of course, it hits my forearm, my chest, my head, that's a fault. But below the wrist, right, so it's part of the paddle. So I think what he's saying is, let's say the ball, I'm swinging and it hits my wrist and then also hits my paddle.
Yeah.
If that's in a continuous motion, like a da-da, that's a double hit, and that would be same as a paddle double hit, just da-da, continuous motion. And what double hits are there are you can't do this. You can't hit the ball up in the air and then smash it. That's an illegal double hit. That's actually, hitting the ball twice. But yes, if it hits your hand and the paddle, just da-da, yep, that's a legal double hit.
Gotcha. Yeah, makes sense.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, well, I think we got through our all our Q&As, and we made it under the hour mark. So we didn't have to put a timer on you after all.
Good deal.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Don, for joining me today. I appreciate having you on and sharing your insight and knowledge about both the rules as well as the referee app. So if you guys have any other questions about the referee app, how to become a referee, contact USAP for how to become a referee, questions for us, support@pickleball.com. So thanks again, Don, and we'll see you all next time.
Sounds
Bye.
good.